chance encounter on a bustling New York subway, a disoriented stranger, a kind-hearted social worker, and a half-eaten empanada. Clara thought she was just helping a lost man, but what if he wasn't lost by accident? What if he was a billionaire CEO haunted by a secret illness and a promise to her long-lost mother? This is a story of hidden identities, profound connections, and the staggering truth that an act of simple kindness can unravel a destiny decades in the making. Have you ever helped a stranger and wondered if there was a deeper reason your paths crossed? Share your story in the comments. And buckle up, because before this train ride is over, you'll want to be subscribed and have that notification bell on. This journey is full of shocking twists. Watch out, careful, Clara Hayes shouted as she rushed towards the disoriented man who nearly stumbled in the subway car. The man in the teal suit looked up, his eyes unfocused and filled with confusion. Clara stopped in front of him, a half-eaten empanada in one hand. "Are you okay? I've been watching you and you seem lost," she said, kneeling to be at his level as he sat down, his hands trembling. I don't know where I am," the man murmured, frantically checking his pockets. "I don't remember where I was going." Clara set her empanada, wrapped in a napkin, beside him and sat down. "My name is Clara Hayes. I work with seniors, so I recognize when someone needs help. May I see your wallet? Maybe you have some identification." The man looked at her suspiciously, but something in Clara's warm eyes reassured him. He handed her his fine leather wallet. "Marcus Thorne," she read from the business card. "CEO of Thorne Tech. Wow. Impressive. Thorne Tech." Marcus seemed confused for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Yes, that's my company." Clara took out her phone. "I'm going to call the number on your card. I'm sure someone is worried about you." As she dialed, Marcus studied her. There was something familiar about her face, in the way she tilted her head while talking. "Hello? Yes. I'm with Mr. Thorne on the subway, line 3, Times Square station. He seems a bit disoriented. Yes. We'll wait at the north exit." Clara put her phone away and smiled at Marcus. "Your assistant is on her way. She says she's been looking for you since she received a strange message from you. Do you want me to walk you to the exit?" Marcus nodded gratefully. "I don't usually use the subway. My driver got sick and I thought I could." He trailed off as if he had forgotten what he was going to say. "Don't worry," Clara reassured him, helping him to his feet. "It happens to all of us. I once got on the subway going in the wrong direction and ended up on the other side of the city." As they walked towards the exit, Marcus kept trying to remember something. "Do we know each other? You look familiar." "I don't think so," Clara replied. "I work with seniors at the Hope Community Center in the Bronx. Unless you have a relative there." At the exit, an elegant woman rushed towards them. "Marcus, thank God!" exclaimed Rachel, his assistant. "I was so worried." "This young lady helped me," Marcus explained, pointing to Clara. I had an episode." Rachel took out her wallet. "Thank you so much for helping him. Please accept this for your trouble." Clara shook her head. "I don't need money. We all need help sometimes." She handed Marcus a napkin with her number written on it. "In case you need help navigating the subway again, or just to talk." As Clara walked away, something clicked in Marcus's mind. Suddenly, he remembered where he had seen that face before. She was identical to Eleanor Hayes, the social worker who had cared for his mother during her last months of life, the woman whose kindness he had promised to repay someday. "Hayes," Marcus whispered. "Clara Hayes. Did you say something?" Rachel asked. "I think I just found Eleanor Hayes's daughter," Marcus replied, watching Clara disappear into the crowd. "And I don't intend to lose sight of her again." The Hope Community Center was an old 2-story building, with faded walls and motivational posters everywhere. Clara arrived early that morning, dark circles under her eyes betraying another night of worry. "You look like a zombie," said Daniel Evans, her colleague and friend, as he handed her a coffee. "Thanks for the compliment," Clara replied sarcastically. "I stayed up late reviewing the budget. If we don't get funding this month, we'll have to close the occupational therapy program." Daniel leaned against the desk. What if we look for corporate sponsors? There are a lot of companies that donate for tax deductions. Clara snorted. Companies? Most just want to take a picture for their annual report. They don't understand people's real problems. Her mind momentarily flashed to the man on the subway. A wealthy CEO who seemed so vulnerable. She shook her head to clear the thought. Speaking of people with problems, how's Mrs. Peterson today? Asking for you, Daniel smiled. She says she has new gossip about her grandson. Clara smiled. Her adopted grandmother, as she liked to call her, always had a story to tell. Meanwhile, in a sleek skyscraper in the financial district, Marcus Thorne looked out his office window. The subway episode had been the third this month, and they were getting worse each time. You should see a neurologist, insisted his sister Laura, sitting across from him. You can't keep hiding your condition, Marcus. The board of directors is starting to ask questions. I'm handling it, he replied curtly. Handling it? You got lost on the subway. If that woman hadn't helped you. Marcus turned sharply. Her name is Clara. Clara Hayes. Do you know her? Marcus looked out the window again. Not exactly, but I think she's Eleanor's daughter, the social worker who cared for Mom. The memory flooded him. His mother bedridden, consumed by illness, and the dedicated Eleanor always by her side, dignifying her last days with compassion and respect. Before she died, his mother had told him, "Promise me you'll repay her kindness someday." And what do you plan to do? Laura asked. Marcus smiled faintly. Fulfill a promise. On his computer, he opened the information his security team had compiled on Clara Hayes. 32 years old, single, social worker specializing in seniors, employed at the Hope Community Center, a center with serious financial problems. He picked up his phone. Rachel, I need you to make an anonymous donation to the Hope Community Center. Yes, today. And one more thing. Find the nearest cafe to that center. 3 days later, Clara stared at her email in astonishment. Daniel, she shouted, you're not going to believe this. We received an anonymous donation of $10,000. We can keep the therapy program. Daniel rushed to her desk. You're kidding. Who would donate that much money without showing off? I don't know, but they saved our program. Clara smiled. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe there are rich people who understand what we do. That afternoon, Clara entered the Daily Grind Cafe, 2 blocks from the center. She needed to celebrate with a pastry and a moment of peace. While waiting in line, she didn't notice the man who entered after her, now perfectly composed in an impeccable suit. Clara? The voice sounded vaguely familiar. Turning around, she came face to face with Marcus Thorne. Mr. Thorne, what a surprise, she exclaimed. Are you feeling better? Marcus smiled, playing his part perfectly. Much better, thanks to you. And please call me Marcus. Can I buy you a coffee? I'd like to thank you properly for your help. It's not necessary. I insist. Besides, I'd like to know more about your work. I'm interested in social work in the city. I'm considering focusing my company's philanthropy in that sector. Clara hesitated for a moment, but something in Marcus's gaze convinced her. All right, but on one condition, she said finally. I'll buy the pastry. Marcus smiled, satisfied that his plan was working. What Clara couldn't imagine was that he already knew exactly who she was, and that this casual encounter was only the first of many he had carefully planned. No way! Another anonymous donation. Daniel exclaimed when Clara arrived at the office. That's the second this month. Someone must really like us. Clara dropped her bag on the desk and approached to see the email Daniel was pointing to on the screen. It's weird, isn't it? Just when we were about to close the home support program. Daniel looked at her suspiciously. It wouldn't be that millionaire you met on the subway, would it? You've been seeing him often at that cafe. Clara blushed. Of course not. Marcus doesn't even know exactly where I work. Marcus? No longer Mr. Thorne. Daniel joked. Don't tease, Clara replied, though she couldn't help smiling. We've only had coffee a couple of times, talking about social programs. He's interesting, not like other executives. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Do you like him? He's just an acquaintance, Clara insisted, though she knew she was lying. In recent weeks, her casual encounters with Marcus at the Daily Grind Cafe had become her favorite part of her days. That afternoon, Clara entered the cafe and, as was now customary, Marcus was there reading a book, Moonless Nights by Gabriel Ortiz. Moonless Nights, she commented as she approached. I didn't know you liked dark poetry. Marcus smiled when he saw her. He's my favorite poet. Do you know him? Know him? I have all his books. He's practically unknown. How did you discover him? My mother used to read him, Marcus replied, remembering the afternoons when his mother recited those verses. She said he perfectly captured the beauty of pain. Clara sat down, surprised by this coincidence. My father said the same thing. He took his books when he left us, but I had already memorized many poems. A comfortable silence settled between them, as if they had just discovered they shared a secret language. Let me take you to dinner, Marcus said suddenly. A quiet place where we can talk more. Clara hesitated. I don't know if I should. Why not? We're friends, aren't we? And I want to keep learning about your work for my philanthropy project. Friends, Clara thought. That word didn't exactly capture what she was beginning to feel for Marcus. All right, but nothing fancy. I'm uncomfortable in overly elegant places. I know the perfect place, Marcus smiled. That night, in a small family restaurant with dim lights and soft music, Marcus and Clara shared much more than a meal. They talked about their childhoods, shared losses, pending dreams. My mother died when I was 20, Marcus explained, taking a sip of wine. It was the hardest thing I've ever faced. I'm so sorry, Clara said. I lost my father when I was 15, but it was different. He chose to leave. And your mother? Clara looked down. She left shortly after. Social work consumed her. She said she couldn't bear to see so much suffering and then come home. Ironically, I ended up doing the exact same thing. But you're still here, Marcus observed. You're still fighting. Sometimes I wonder for how long, Clara confessed. Funds are always scarce. Bureaucracy suffocates us. And for every person we help, there are 10 more waiting. Why do you do it then? Clara smiled, remembering her seniors. For the moments. Those small moments when you connect with someone and, even if just for an instant, their life improves. Like when I helped you on the subway. Marcus looked at her intently. You've improved my life much more than in that instant, Clara. The sincerity in his voice surprised her, and for the first time, she felt that perhaps this man was different from all the others she had known. On the way home, in the taxi Marcus insisted on paying for, Clara reflected on the evening. For the first time in years, she had allowed herself to lower her guard, to be vulnerable with someone. And the most amazing thing was that this someone belonged to a world completely opposite to hers. What Clara didn't know was that while she was starting to fall in love with the man she knew, Marcus was hiding not only his full identity but also the reason he had entered her life, and that very soon this double life would become unsustainable. In his luxury apartment, Marcus looked at the photo of Clara he had added to his research. His condition was worsening. The memory episodes were becoming more frequent, and it was increasingly difficult for him to justify his lie, born of good intentions but growing like a shadow between them. What am I getting myself into? He murmured to himself as he took his medication. The following weeks were like a dream for Clara. Her encounters with Marcus became more frequent. Walks in Central Park, dinners in small restaurants, and even a visit to an artisan market where he bought woven bracelets for both of them. To remember me when we're not together, Marcus had said, placing the colorful bracelet on her wrist with a tenderness that disarmed her. At the community center, everyone noticed the change in Clara. I've never seen you so happy, Mrs. Peterson commented during her therapy session. That man must be very special. Clara smiled, helping her with her mobility exercises. He's different from anyone I've ever known. He talks about business but understands feelings. He's successful but values simple things. Those are the best, the old woman nodded. Those with their feet on the ground and their heads in the clouds. What Clara didn't mention was the growing concern she felt. Occasionally, Marcus seemed distant, as if hiding something, and there were details that didn't fit. He never invited her to his office, avoided talking about his specific work, and seemed to evade any situation where they might run into his colleagues. Meanwhile, the Hope Community Center continued to receive mysterious donations that allowed them to expand their programs. Clara had been promoted to regional director, a position that would allow her to help more centers like hers, though it meant less time with her beloved seniors. "It's a great opportunity," she told Marcus when she shared the news during a picnic in the park. "But I feel guilty for leaving direct work with my seniors." "You'll be able to help many more from that position," he replied, pouring more lemonade. "Sometimes you have to step back a bit to have a greater impact." "You talk as if you have experience," Clara observed. Marcus looked away. "It's similar in business. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the most necessary." Clara noticed a shadow cross his face. "Is something wrong, Marcus? Lately you seem worried." He tried to smile. "Just tired. Work, you know." But it wasn't just work. Marcus's memory episodes were worsening, and keeping his relationship with Clara separate from his life as CEO was becoming more complicated. Laura constantly pressured him to reveal his condition to the board, and his doctors recommended more aggressive treatments. The critical moment arrived during that same picnic. While they were talking, Marcus suddenly fell silent, his gaze lost. "Marcus!" Clara touched his hand. "Are you okay?" He looked at her, confused.
I'm sorry.
"Who are you?" Clara's heart raced, but she remained calm. She recognized the signs.
I'm Claire.
"We've known each other for a couple of months. We're in Central Park, having a picnic." Marcus blinked several times, as if trying to clear his mind. "Clara, of course sorry, He stopped, running a hand over his face. "This has been happening more often." Clara squeezed his hand firmly. "Why didn't you tell me? I work with seniors with cognitive problems. I understand these things." "How do you explain to someone that your mind betrays you?" Marcus sighed. "Sometimes you forget where you are, who she is." Clara looked him directly in the eyes. "You can explain it to me just like you're doing now. Trust me." Marcus looked at her for a long time. He couldn't keep lying anymore. "Clara, there's something I must confess. All this, it started with a lie." "What are you talking about?" Marcus took a breath. "My full name is Marcus Thorne. I'm the CEO of Thorne Tech, one of the largest tech companies in the country." He paused. "And I knew who you were before we met on the subway." Clara tensed. "I don't understand." "Your mother, Eleanor Hayes, was the social worker who cared for my mother before she died," Marcus continued. "I promised her I would repay her kindness someday. When you helped me on the subway, I recognized you. You have her same eyes." Clara moved away slightly, processing the information. "Did you arrange our meetings? The cafe?" "Yes," Marcus admitted. "And the donations to the center? That was me. So all this has been, what? A charity project? A way to settle a debt?"
No, Clara.
"It started that way, but it became much more." Marcus tried to take her hand, but she pulled it away. "I fell in love with you for who you are, not for who your mother was. And your condition? Were you planning to hide that from me forever too?" Marcus looked down. "I have progressive memory loss episodes. The doctors aren't sure of the exact cause, but it's getting worse. I didn't want you to see me as someone weak or sick." Clara stood up, gathering her things with trembling hands. "I wouldn't mind if you were weak or sick, Marcus. I mind that you lied to me, that you manipulated our relationship from the beginning." Her eyes filled with tears. "I trusted you. Clara, please. Trust and honesty mean more to me than all the money or grand gestures," she said firmly. "That's something you'd never understand." Without looking back, Clara walked away, leaving Marcus alone with the weight of his confession. The truth had come out, but instead of freeing them, it had built a wall between them. The truth is out, and it's a bombshell. Marcus's entire relationship with Clara started with a hidden agenda, even if his feelings became real. And now she knows about his illness too. Can trust ever be rebuilt on a foundation of lies, no matter how good the intentions? What would you do in Clara's shoes? Forgive? Forget? Or walk away? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you're on the edge of your seat, don't forget to hit that like button. Clara threw herself into her new job as regional director. The long hours and endless meetings gave her little time to think about Marcus and his betrayal. "You're killing yourself, Clara," Daniel told her one afternoon as they reviewed files. "You haven't taken a day off in 3 weeks." "There's a lot of work," she replied curtly. "With the program expansion, we need to restructure the entire system." Daniel closed the folder he was reviewing. "This isn't about work. It's about that guy, isn't it? What happened between you two?" Clara sighed, finally putting down her documents. "He lied to me, Daniel. It was all a sham from the beginning. Turns out he's the owner of Thorntech, and he knew my mother. The donations, the casual encounters, all planned. The millionaire from the subway? I knew there was something fishy," Daniel exclaimed. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know either." Clara ran a hand through her hair. "I felt like such a fool, thinking I had finally found someone special, and it was all a lie." "Everything?" Daniel asked. "Are you sure absolutely everything was a lie?" Clara remembered the intimate moments, the deep conversations, the connection they had felt. "No, not everything could have been false." "It doesn't matter," she said finally. "Trust was broken, and without trust, there's no relationship." That night, Clara visited Mrs. Peterson in her small apartment. The old woman had always been her confidant, more family than many of her blood relatives. "You're thinner," Mrs. Peterson observed as they shared tea. "And those sad eyes don't suit you." Clara smiled faintly. "I've been busy with work." "Nonsense," the old woman replied. "It's about the young man you were telling me about. What did he do to be banished from your life?" For the next hour, Clara told her everything. The subway encounter, the lie, the donations, the connection to her mother. Mrs. Peterson listened in silence, nodding occasionally. "Do you know why I like you so much?" the old woman finally said. "Because you have principles. But sometimes, my dear, principles make us blind." "What do you mean?" "That man made a mistake, yes. He started with a lie. But from what you tell me, he ended up falling in love for real." Mrs. Peterson took Clara's hand. "Sometimes pride prevents us from seeing the genuine love behind mistakes." Clara remained thoughtful. Was it pride she felt, or fear of being hurt again? Meanwhile, at Thorntech offices, Marcus faced his own crisis. The board had been informed of his condition after he nearly collapsed during an important presentation. "It's time to consider a change in leadership," one of the members suggested. "The company's stability is at stake." "My brother is perfectly capable," Laura intervened, though weeks earlier she herself had suggested Marcus step aside. "We just need to implement a support system." Marcus, seated at the head of the table, had heard enough. "I appreciate your concern," he said, standing up, "but I am not going to resign. Instead, I propose a change in our structure." For the next hour, Marcus presented a collaborative leadership model that would distribute responsibilities among an executive team, with him overseeing but not controlling every decision. "My condition is not going to improve," he admitted frankly, "but I can adapt to it, and our company can too. Transparency will be our greatest strength." Leaving the meeting, Laura hugged him. "I'm proud of you," she told him. "Mom would be too." "I'm not so sure," Marcus replied. "I just ruined my chance with Eleanor's daughter. I failed in my promise." "What are you talking about?" "The promise wasn't to give her money or keep her close out of obligation," Marcus explained. "It was to honor her mother's kindness with my actions, and the first thing I did was lie to her daughter." That night, Marcus made a decision. If he couldn't win Clara back, he would at least fulfill the promise his own way. He called his legal team and began planning the Thorn Foundation for neurological research and community care programs. A week later, Daniel entered Clara's office with a serious expression. "We have a visitor," he announced, "and you're not going to like it." Clara looked up from her computer. What are you talking about? The answer came when Marcus appeared in the doorway. He looked different, thinner, with pronounced dark circles and a suit that seemed slightly too large for him now. Just 5 minutes, Marcus requested. Please. Daniel looked at Clara, who nodded slowly. 5 minutes, she conceded. When Daniel left them alone, an uncomfortable silence filled the room. You look well, Marcus finally said. You don't, Clara replied frankly. Have you been sleeping? Not much, he admitted with a tired smile. I didn't come to try to convince you of anything. I just wanted you to know that I've made changes in my life. I revealed my condition publicly and reorganized my company. I'm glad for you. And I've established a foundation, Marcus continued, for neurological research and community health programs, inspired by your work. Clara was surprised. Why are you telling me this? Because even if I can't be part of your life, I want you to know that you changed me for the better. Marcus approached the desk. And because there's something you should know about your mother. Clara tensed. What do you know about my mother? I'm not the one who should tell you, Marcus replied. There's someone who wants to talk to you. When you're ready. He left a card on the desk and headed for the door. I'm sorry, Clara, for everything. When Marcus left, Clara picked up the card with trembling hands. On it was a phone number and a name she hadn't seen in years. Eleanor Hayes. 3 days passed before Clara decided to dial the number. The card remained on her nightstand, a constant reminder of unanswered questions. Finally, one sleepless night, she picked up her phone. 3 rings. Then, a voice she vaguely remembered. Hello. Clara held her breath. Eleanor Hayes? A silence. Clara? Is that you? The voice sounded incredulous, emotional. Yes, she replied curtly. Marcus Thorne gave me your number. Thank God you called, Eleanor said. I've wanted to contact you for years, but I didn't know if you'd want to talk to me. I'm not sure I want to now, Clara admitted. It's been 15 years, Mom. 15 years without a call, without a letter. I know, my child, and I don't have enough excuses. Eleanor's voice broke. But I'd like to try to explain if you give me the chance. Clara closed her eyes. So many nights she had dreamed of this moment, imagining everything she would say to the woman who abandoned her and her father. But now she only felt a profound weariness. What does Marcus have to do with all this? It's complicated, Eleanor replied. I'd prefer to tell you in person. Could we meet? They agreed to meet the next day at a neutral cafe, far from both the community center and any place with shared memories. Clara barely slept that night. In the morning, Daniel immediately noticed her state. You look like you've seen a ghost. Almost, she replied, pouring her 3rd coffee. I'm going to see my mother today. Daniel dropped the papers he was holding. Your mother? The one who disappeared when you were a teenager. Clara nodded. I'll tell you later. Can you cover for me this afternoon? At 3 o'clock sharp, Clara entered the cafe and saw her immediately. Thinner, her hair now silver, but with the same eyes she saw in the mirror every morning. Eleanor stood up nervously as she saw her approach. There was an awkward moment where neither knew whether to hug or shake hands. They ended up just sitting down. You look so much like your father, Eleanor said nostalgically. He left too, Clara replied. Though at least he did it to our faces. He didn't just disappear one day without explanation. Eleanor looked down. I deserve it. All your anger, your resentment. I understand. I didn't come to make you feel guilty, Clara said. I came to understand. What does Marcus Thorne have to do with you? Eleanor took a breath. Do you remember my last job before I left? I was caring for a woman with terminal cancer, Mrs. Thorne. Vaguely. Marcus was her son. A brilliant and dedicated young man who adored his mother. Eleanor smiled sadly. He spent hours by her side, working while she slept, just to be near. Clara listened in silence. The work was affecting me, Clara. I had seen so many patients die. I had absorbed so much pain. When Mrs. Thorne passed away, something in me broke. Eleanor took a sip of her tea with trembling hands. I had what I now know was severe depression. I couldn't function. I couldn't be a mother or a wife. I had dark thoughts. Did you seek help? Clara asked. You should have. But back then, mental health wasn't talked about like it is now. Eleanor looked at her directly. Instead of seeking help, I ran away. I thought you'd all be better off without me. It was the worst mistake of my life. Clara felt her eyes moisten but remained firm. Where did you go? To Vermont with my cousin. I worked in a rural clinic for years. Eventually, I recovered, but by then I felt too ashamed to return. Eleanor continued. Until a few weeks ago, I saw the news about the Thorn Foundation and recognized Marcus. I wrote to him to thank him for honoring his mother's memory, and he told me about you. Clara processed all this information, trying to reconcile it with her memories of abandonment. Why didn't you try to contact me sooner? I did, Eleanor replied. I wrote you letters for years. Your father must have decided not to give them to you. I don't blame him. The silence between them was heavy with 15 years of absence. I don't expect you to forgive me, Eleanor finally said. I just wanted you to know the truth, and that never, not a single day, did I stop loving you or regretting it. Clara didn't know what to feel. Anger, sadness, confusion, relief. It all mixed within her. I need time, she said finally, to process all this. All the time you need, Eleanor replied. I'll be here. I'm not going to disappear again. Leaving the cafe, Clara walked aimlessly for hours, letting her thoughts flow. Her mother's story explained a lot, but healing those wounds would take time. Without realizing it, her steps led her to the Thorn Tech building. She stopped in front of the imposing skyscraper, thinking about Marcus and his story intertwined with hers through her mother. Her phone vibrated. It was an email from the National Association of Social Workers. They were inviting her as a speaker to a conference on community care models, a recognition of her work in the regional program. And the keynote speaker would be Marcus Thorn, talking about his foundation's new approach to fair training and compensation for community health workers. Clara put her phone away. The universe seemed determined to keep connecting their paths. Perhaps it was time to stop resisting and face not only her past but also her future. The Javits Convention Center buzzed with lights and activity. Social workers, doctors, and geriatric specialists gathered for the National Community Care Conference. Clara adjusted her white blouse and took a deep breath before entering. She had worked for weeks on her presentation about the integrated care model she had implemented in her region. However, her thoughts were elsewhere. Clara, Daniel exclaimed, catching up with her at the entrance. You're early. Nervous. A little, she admitted. It's been years since I spoke in front of so many people. What she didn't mention was that her real concern was running into Marcus. They hadn't seen each other since that brief conversation in her office. You'll do great, Daniel reassured her. You're the expert on this topic. Is everyone here yet? Clara asked, trying to sound casual. Daniel smiled knowingly. If by everyone you mean a certain millionaire entrepreneur, yes. I saw him registering half an hour ago. By the way, now I understand why you liked him. He's much more handsome in person than in internet photos. Clara gave him a light nudge. Don't start. The conference began with welcoming words from the director of the National Institute on Aging. Clara took her seat in the front row, determined to focus on the presentations and not on searching for Marcus in the crowd. But when he was announced as the keynote speaker, she couldn't help her heart from racing. Marcus walked onto the stage with a confident stride, though she noticed the slight tremor in his hands, which he concealed by firmly holding his notes. Good morning, everyone, Marcus began. My name is Marcus Thorn, and until recently, my biggest concern was increasing my company's profits. A polite laugh rippled through the room. But life has interesting ways of changing our priorities, he continued. A few months ago, I was diagnosed with a neurological condition that affects my memory and, eventually, will affect other cognitive functions. A respectful silence filled the auditorium. Clara couldn't help but admire his courage in speaking so openly about his condition. This diagnosis forced me to reevaluate everything. My work, my relationships, my priorities. Marcus paused. And in that process, a social worker taught me that vulnerability is not weakness, but strength. His eyes found Clara's in the front row. This person showed me that wealth means nothing without connection, without purpose. She taught me that helping others isn't just about giving money, but about giving time, attention, and dignity. For the next half hour, Marcus explained the details of his foundation's initiative to train and fairly compensate community health workers across the United States. A program that would guarantee decent wages, ongoing training, and psychological support to prevent burnout. Because we know that many abandon this vital profession not for lack of vocation, but because of the emotional toll it takes. His voice softened. And when we lose these professionals, we lose much more than workers. We lose bridges between vulnerable people and the society that claims to value them. When he finished, the room erupted in applause. Clara found herself clapping, her eyes moist. That initiative addressed exactly the problem that had led her mother to abandon her profession and her family. After Marcus's speech, it was Clara's turn. With renewed inspiration, she presented her community care model based on her years of direct experience. Throughout her presentation, she felt Marcus's attentive gaze from the front row, their positions now swapped. At the end of the day's presentations, Clara found herself surrounded by colleagues wanting to congratulate her and discuss potential collaborations. When she finally managed to break free, she looked for Marcus in the crowd, but he had disappeared. She found him on the convention center terrace, contemplating the city. "Your presentation was impressive," she said, approaching. Marcus turned, surprised and pleased to see her. "Yours was better. It's clear you speak from experience, not from theory." A comfortable silence settled between them, as if both knew it was time to talk about what mattered. "I saw my mother," Clara finally said. "She told me everything. About your mother, about her depression, about why she left." Marcus nodded. "How do you feel about it?" "Confused, hurt, but also relieved," Clara admitted. "For years, I thought she abandoned us because she didn't love us enough. Now I understand she was sick." "Have you forgiven her?" Clara looked towards the horizon. "I'm in the process. Some wounds need time." "I understand," Marcus said softly. Clara turned to him. "What I don't understand is why you didn't tell me the truth from the beginning. About yourself, about my mother. At first, I just wanted to get to know you, to see if you were like her," Marcus explained. "Then I started to love you for yourself, and I was afraid that if I told you the truth, you'd think I was just fulfilling a promise." "Were you?" "At first, maybe, but that changed quickly." Marcus looked her in the eyes. "I had never met anyone like you, Clara. Someone who sees people, really sees them, beyond their titles or their money. We could have avoided so much pain if you had been honest," she said gently. "I know that now, but I was scared. Of my illness, of your rejection, of not being enough." A group of attendees came out onto the terrace, interrupting their private moment. "Do you want to go somewhere else?" Marcus asked. "There's a cafe nearby. We could continue talking." Clara hesitated only for a moment. "There's a lot to talk about." They walked in silence to the small cafe. Once there, seated across from steaming cups, Clara took the initiative. "I've known about your connection to my mother for weeks. Daniel told me after you visited me," she confessed. "He investigated you after our breakup." Marcus looked surprised. "Why didn't you say anything?" "Because I needed time to process everything. The lie, the connection with my mother, my feelings for you." Clara held his gaze. "And because I wanted to see what you would do, if you had really changed. And your speech today gave me the answer," Clara smiled. "You wouldn't be exposing your vulnerability in front of hundreds of people if you were still the same man who was afraid to show weakness." Marcus took her hand across the table. "I've learned that true strength lies in accepting our limits." His eyes shone with emotion. "And I want to spend whatever time I have left of mental clarity with people who inspire me to be better. People like you." "My mother also taught me something," Clara said. "That forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past. but about building a different future. Their clasped hands on the table symbolized that new beginning. It wouldn't be easy. Marcus's condition, the rekindling relationship with her mother, the challenges of their work. But for the first time in a long time, Clara allowed herself to imagine a shared future, built on a foundation of honesty and mutual understanding. So, are we starting over? Marcus asked cautiously. Clara smiled.
No.
We're continuing, but this time with no secrets between us. 5 years had passed since that conference reconnected their paths. The New York City subway rumbled along its familiar tracks as Clara watched the buildings fly by through the window. Marcus's hand rested on hers, their wedding rings gleaming softly under the car's lights. What are you thinking about? Marcus asked, noticing her lost in the urban landscape. About how life changes, she replied with a smile. 5 years ago, I never would have imagined we'd be here, married, running a foundation together, and you completely comfortable traveling by subway. Marcus laughed softly. All thanks to an empanada and a social worker with a heart of gold. They had been 5 intense years. The experimental treatment for Marcus's condition had shown promising results, significantly slowing the progression of his memory episodes. The Thornhays Foundation had become a national benchmark in integrating community health services, combining Marcus's business acumen with Clara's on-the-ground experience. And most surprisingly, the relationship between Clara and her mother, Eleanor, had gradually healed. Eleanor now worked as an advisor at the foundation, contributing her experience to prevent burnout among social workers. Do you think we'll be on time? Marcus asked, checking his watch. You know how Daniel gets when we're late for his gatherings. The most demanding godfather in history, Clara joked. He's nervous because it's the first time Sophie is sleeping over at his place. Their 3-year-old daughter, Sophie, had been excited for days about the sleepover with Uncle Daniel. As they got off at Times Square station, the same one where they had first met, Clara couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude. Remember, I always carry an emergency empanada in my bag, she commented as they walked towards the exit. Some habits never change. Marcus smiled. And I hope they never do. At the north exit, where Rachel had picked up Marcus that fateful day, Mrs. Peterson now waited with Daniel and little Sophie. The old woman, now 85 but with the same energy as always, had insisted on teaching Sophie how to make homemade empanadas. Mommy! Daddy! Sophie shouted when she saw them, running towards them with open arms. Marcus lifted her, twirling her around, which made her laugh. Looks like someone's ready for her adventure with Uncle Daniel, he said, kissing her cheek. Yes, Grandma Peterson says we'll make empanadas for when you come back tomorrow. Clara hugged Mrs. Peterson. Thank you for everything. I don't know what we'd do without you. That's what family is for, my dear, the old woman replied tenderly. As they said their goodbyes, they saw an elderly woman looking disorientedly at the subway map. Clara and Marcus exchanged a look and, without a word, approached her together. Can we help you? Clara offered with a smile. I'm a little lost, the lady admitted. I need to get to the village, but I can't understand this map. Don't worry, Marcus said, kindly pointing out the correct route. We'll walk you to that line. As they guided the lady, Sophie tugged on Daniel's sleeve. You know what, Uncle Dan? Mommy always tells me the story of how she met Daddy on the subway. Will you tell it to me tonight too? Daniel smiled, watching Clara and Marcus helping the old woman, just as Clara had helped Marcus years ago. Of course, little one, it's the best story I know. It starts with an empanada, a lost man, and a woman with the biggest heart in the world. The story had come full circle, but it had also started a new one, as the small family said goodbye at the subway station where it all began. The future stretched before them, not as a straight, predictable path, but as a web of connections, opportunities, and shared moments of kindness. This journey of Clara and Marcus, from a chance encounter fueled by compassion to a life built on shared purpose and profound love, reminds us that even in our most lost moments, connection can find us. It teaches us that honesty, even when difficult, is the bedrock of true intimacy. and that forgiveness can heal not just relationships, but generations. Their story is a testament to the fact that our greatest vulnerabilities can become our greatest strengths, and that a life dedicated to kindness creates ripples that touch countless others. What do you think is the most important ingredient for a lasting love? Is it fate, shared values, or the courage to be vulnerable? Share your beautiful insights in the comments below. If this story of unexpected turns, deep forgiveness, and enduring love has warmed your heart, please show your appreciation with a like, subscribe for more tales that celebrate the human spirit, and share it with anyone who believes that even the most tangled paths can lead to the most beautiful destinations. Because in the end, it's the connections we make and the kindness we share that truly define our happily ever after.